Hi YouTube, welcome to Let's Fly VFR. Hi, my name's Gunny. Hey YouTube, today we're going on a navigation flight. Gawler to Truro Park. Normally about 35 nautical miles, but today it's going to be 46 because some airspace restrictions. 223B is not available. Should normally take about 25 to 30 minutes, but today, taxiing and all, we're looking at about 40. There's our Gawler training area and the restricted airspace we have to deal with. This would be our normal flight path, direct, nice and easy, but today isn't that easy. Looking at the restricted area briefing, you will see that there's some red right where we want it. So we're restricted to 2,500 feet out initially, so we'll take the first leg out till we're outside our own airspace, travel north and then turn right and head eastward. So here we are at Adelaide Soaring Club, just adjusting the altimeter to airport altitude, which is 165 feet. Adjust our expected heading out from the airport on our first leg. Do that before we get going. Let's do some checks. Check our fuel quantities, volts and vacuum are working, engine temps in the green. Check instruments are working, heading indicator is set, altimeter is set, RPM is idling and idling smoothly, circuit breakers are in, fuel pumps on, mixture rich, that's all the way in, cutoff switch is in, otherwise the engine wouldn't be started anyway, trim set to take off, all controls free and correct movement. And then we will check our flaps. We'll run those down. Here's the ailerons working fine. Here come the flaps coming down. All the way down and all the way back up again. Okay, all good. Controls are moving freely. Checking to make sure that there's no other aircraft or people near us when we're about to taxi. Have a good look. Last thing you want to do is drive into someone or an aircraft. Doesn't make you very popular. Okay, radio call ready to taxi now. Gawler traffic, Cessna 172 taxiing to runway 13 via the taxiway and backtracking on runway 13. Gawler. We're going to move out, taxi down to the runway immediately ahead of us. We'll stop, we'll do a run up there as well and just check the magnetos on the aircraft. This is done by first stopping and putting the brakes on. Engine running up to 2,000 RPM and we turn off the magnetos in sequence. We turn one off, check that there's a small RPM drop because you lose a minor amount of performance when you're only on one magneto, and on the second we see the same thing. So checking around. Throttle up. Okay, there's our tachometer and that's our switch. So we'll move it up gently. Here we go, 2000 RPM. Move our ignition switch back one click and there's a small 50 or so RPM drop. Back up, it recovers. Second magneto again drops down and then it recovers, all working well. If at any stage that you do that and the engine just quits on you, then you know one magneto is not working, or if it runs rough it may be your plugs are fouled. Okay, let's give the aircraft a quick look over, check the pattern to make sure that's clear, and a radio call. Gawler traffic, Cessna 172 entering and backtracking on runway 13, Gawler. Bit of activity today, a few gliders around. So it's a long taxi down here. I've got my face track no IR working, and it seems to be working well. It does work really well when there's plenty of light. It's a bit harder if you want to use it in the evening. You need to have a light on, make it work well. The Gawler has these, they're not actually taxiways, these are takeoff strips that are set down the side of the main runways. As we head over the main runway here, you need some more RPM. The friction is a lot higher than it is when you set on some tarmac. Then we'll just continue to taxi down. There's one of my tractors. This airfield is normally just a blank space, really. It does have the runways in place, but no buildings or trees or anything. And this is something I've done in Overlay Editor. It's a great program. Really enjoy making the airports more realistic. If anybody knows where there's some 3D animated grass, would love to put some of that down here. But on the right is normally a crop anyway, hence the tractor. Crops are grown down here every year, and that supplements Adelaide Soaring Club's income. A bit of share farming. Okay. Just about at a point where we can turn around. You should use as much runway as you possibly can. That'll give you plenty of time should the engine fail on you. Gives you a chance to put the aircraft back down on the runway without damaging anybody or yourself. We'll use this point here for today. A little careful not to try and speed around the corner, but you do need to balance that with RPM while you're on the main runway here. Okay, plenty of room. Adelaide Hills in the distance, which we'll be crossing very soon, and heading out over to the plains. Okay, we'll check everything one more time. Checking fuels, checking engine instruments, checking everything's operating, circuit breakers are in, doors are closed, flaps are up, trim is set, fuel selectors on both. And again, just rechecking the pattern. You can't check often enough, you've just got to keep looking. Because the departure that we're doing will be taking off straight ahead, turning right, following the pattern around, doing a right pattern, which is what we do on this runway, and then departing centrally overhead, nearly where we are at the moment, and then heading off to our destination, or our first leg. Altimeter set, give everything a quick check. Once we're ready to go, we need to have a radio call so everybody knows what we're doing, even though there's no one here, and we don't actually have a tower. There is a radio, and people in the local area will be on the same frequency, and they'll be listening. Some days it can be quite busy. Okay, park brake off, radio call. Gawler traffic, Cessna 172 rolling runway 13, departing overhead for Truro. Gently applying the power, using the rudders to keep straight. Be a little bit of wind there today. I expected the wind should be just from the left a little. Accelerating well, RPM speed's good, just crack 60 knots, rotate and rise away. This leg we need to climb to 700 feet indicated, which is 500 feet approximately above the ground. We have a good climb speed at 75 knots. 75 is also probably the best glide speed as well. So if you lose an engine, no matter what you do, you aim for 75 knots and then work from there. Looking to find somewhere to land. Okay, I'm ready to turn. This is our upwind leg. We will turn downwind. but then we'll depart center of that. We can see the airport below us on our right, so we can continue down and continue to climb. There's no reason to maintain the circuit height because we're going to depart from above it. You need to be at least 500 feet above circuit level, and where we are right now is where that is. We'll continue to climb a little further. Gawler off to our right. It's runway 23 and 05 underneath us, so we're going to depart across the intersection approximately and head out on our first leg to Linddock. So the Adelaide Hills in the distance are around about 2,000 feet or so. So we need to be about 3,500 feet to comfortably transition above them. You need some airspace between you and the ground, obviously. But with the airspace restrictions, which is coming from Edinburgh Air Base. So they've given us the first level, but they haven't given us the second. So, cruise out here. We're starting to accelerate now, and we're just coming up to our 2,500 foot height that we were planning for. So I just need to balance out the controls, trim, and then also set the mixture. The mixture is the red knob down in the center console. That needs to be pulled out until we get the right mixture. Otherwise it will run too rich, and all we do is waste fuel, but it can also cause the plugs to foul, but more likely when it's just idling. So just a little bit over on the height. It's a bit of a balancing act. Now if you're able to use an autopilot, and I will use the autopilot a little today, it makes it a lot easier. If you're flying it manual all the time and then you're checking maps and checking watches for your time and making radio calls, it can get pretty complicated. So having the autopilot available is a real blessing. We have the main road down there on our left. So if you want to fly IFR, which is I follow roads, you can certainly do that. And to be honest, we do. Now if your weather was to change on the way out after we've crossed the hills and you weren't real sure, you could fly north and then wait till you found the main road, which is Highway 20. If you're wondering about my system, I have a 8350. It's currently overclocked at 4.3. I have a 1050 Ti, 16 gig of RAM, and I run off a Samsung Evo SSD. And I have the Cooler Master 212 Evo cooling the CPU. But I don't run at any excessive volts. I've only got 1.3125 on it. At the moment it runs smooth. Okay, we can see Linddock on our left there. And we do have a restricted area out there, that area there, where there's some reservoirs. It's actually a danger area. They fly low level with helicopters through there. That's why there's a cautionary note. But it's best to keep out of there. It's a lot safer. Okay, let's change our heading and turn up towards our next waypoint. And now we're outside our airspace, so we can climb to the 3,500 that we desire to be able to go safely over the hills. It's a pleasant day today, and we've actually got real weather. It's a nice blue sky. Okay, we're making our turn, and now we're heading north, or northerly, heading up towards Tanunda. And from Tanunda we'll do a right turn on our final leg, and we'll go over Anguston, pass by Mukolta, then head out to Truro, which won't be too far from there. This is much prettier during the winter. The hills are green, farmland's all green. Looks quite desolate the way it is at the moment. But that is South Australia. It's very hot and dry, and it can be very wet. Yeah, there's a fairly major winery just on the left there that we can see, and just opposite is the another airport that we can land at as well, the Roland Flat Airport. So if we would have an issue here, we lost our engine, then Roland Flat would be our closest option. I suspect we'll do a tour of the smaller airports around the area on another video. I haven't actually flown into Roland Flat. It is quite tight, and it's a private strip, so you have to get permission before you do fly there. You can see we're above the hills now. I'll need to remove the trees that I've put down on there, which I will do. No good having trees all through the factory. And we got the golf course over there and the Barossa Resort. Really quite a nice place to stay. I have stayed there for a few nights in the past with my wife. Okay, we're getting quite close to Tanunda now. Under our nose. I think in VR you would just forget that you're actually in a simulator, because the scenery for the most part is just spot on. So we're still climbing up to our 3,500. I hope you like our backing track. The backing track is supplied from the internet, and I've played the solo or the lead guitar over the top of that, something I really enjoy doing. climb. Not too far now. Okay, the small town over to the left there is probably Greenock. We have Kapunda, which would be forward to the left of us. We have the 45 there. I think you can just see it between the cowling and this upright there. Okay, coming up to Tanunda. Ready to make our turn. And we're now at altitude as well, so that's worked out very well. Just overshot a little. We're making our turn now and heading out. So we'll be heading over the top of the hills now, so the distance between us and the ground is probably 1,500 feet. So certainly once we get closer to the ground, just by virtue of the hills coming up underneath it, you need to be conscious of where you might want to land should the engine quit at any time. As a pilot, you have to expect that the engine will quit on you at some stage during your flying career. It's not an if, it's just a when, so you have to be prepared for that. Okay, small town coming up ahead of us there will be Anguston. So we'll be cruising just past. I would expect to be over Anguston, so we're just a little bit to the right. Okay, levelling out and heading out on our last leg. True-Ro's in the distance over the hills. We have another small town there down to our left. That'll be Anguston, so we should head nearly straight over the top of Anguston where our track is correct. And we do look to be a little bit right, of course, but that's okay, we can correct that. It's only by about a mile or so. Certainly a nice clear day today. There's a little triangle of towns there together. Between Tanunda where we made our turn, Nuriukta which would be directly ahead of that, and then as we turn right and come over Anguston there's three there. So it's a good little cluster for navigation as well, and you can see them from quite a way off. Really, you can sit back and relax at this point. Just checking rudders are working correctly. We do have the odd occasion where the CH Pro pedals decide to stop working and they kick off to one side. Something I've had to put up with for a while and can't seem to correct. Well, my USB power's turned on and set to not to be able to be turned off, so hitting pretty good frame rates as well. System's doing well. We'll be happy with that. I would be interested to hear from you and what systems you guys run out there. Not everyone has an i7 and a 1080 Ti or a Titan. I'm still very happy with this. The upgrade, I had previously had a 760, and that was okay, but the 2 gig limit was its drawback. I still got reasonable frames, and I could have probably played on that one, but upgrading the 1050 Ti has certainly made a world of difference. Keeping an eye open to make sure there's no aircraft around here. You do often run into general aviation aircraft here, but they're normally above 4,500 feet. So we should still have 1,000 feet between us and any GA aircraft that fly through. What do you think of the default cockpit in this one, guys? I think it's pretty reasonable. I've tried a few other third-party ones on other platforms in the past, and a lot of the time they've been real FPS killers. Okay, we're coming to the end of the hills. That didn't last too long. And the planes will be ahead of us soon, and then we'll have a little bit more altitude between us and the ground. You can really see that boundary along there. That's really the edge. They climb very steeply from the seaside. You go over them. It just doesn't take too long to get through there. To drive from where we left at Gawler to Truro itself, and that's the airport, not the town. The town is about 15 kilometres. It'll be off to our left at about 45 degrees now. That normally takes about an hour or so by car, so this is quite a quick flight normally. The actual flight time is generally 25 to 30 minutes. So it's about half the time. See some of the river lines along there. It will be fairly dry at the moment. See the green where the row of trees are down there. They're just winding its way down the hills. And you can find these on the maps as well. My plan will be to try and put the map up for you so you can have a look intermittently as we're going along. Using Windows Movie Maker doesn't make that possible, but I have a new program that I'm going to be using, so once I've got to grips with that, that has a great deal more flexibility. So we'll be able to do that for you. We'll be able to navigate together. Okay, looking out into the distance as well, looking to see whether we can see Truro yet. Remember, it's Truro Air Park. Truro town, as I say, is about 10 k's prior to it. You'd actually drive past it. The main road is the same road that goes past the airport. When you drive past it, you wouldn't know it was there. You didn't catch some of the small signs, so they must be set back a couple of kilometres from the main road. Okay, I think we're getting ready for our descent now. Not be too far away from Truro. That forest on your left there is quite prominent. It's a good navigation point. It's something you will see in real life if you were to do this flight. I've seen it there, and I've gone over the top. So turning off the autopilot, taking it back manual. And you aim for about 500 feet per minute or thereabouts is a nice gentle descent, especially if you're carrying passengers. You don't want our passengers to get nauseous and If you push it towards 1,000 feet per minute on the descent, it tends to make people a bit sick. So we'd be about 10 kilometers out now, so a radio call is prudent. Truro traffic, Cessna 172, 10 miles west, inbound Truro. The diagonal road is also very prominent. It runs up right next to the airport, so it does help to lead you into it. You can just see the airport there in the distance now. Okay, continuing to descend. The runway I'm planning to use is the diagonal one running from left to right. So we're going to fly down, then turn left onto our downwind leg, left onto our base, and then left again to make the final touchdown in over those trees. If you've never done it, landing over those trees is quite daunting. I find it daunting flying in over them. You're always concerned that you might just catch them on the way through. So most of the time that I fly here, I'm fortunate enough to be able to use one of the main runways. So pre-landing check's a good time to do that now. Make sure our brakes are working. We have pressure, fuel quantities are good. The fuel pump is on. Make sure our harnesses are locked. Our doors are closed. And we'll be ready to land. Continuing on. And we're going to land. So we're going to make a radio call. Truro traffic, Cessna 172 entering left downwind for runway 12 Truro. Flaps down, first stage. We'll just trim that. You can see it started to balloon a little. Now that's our runway there that we're going to take. That should give us, according to the weather that I have, a slight left crosswind, just very slight. Okay, lining up with our runway, running parallel to it. And again, we try and place ourselves about halfway up the strut. That means we'll be far enough out. That gives us a good bit of distance. This is another airport that I've put together as well. This was previously flat and barren. So the trees are there because I've been past it many times on the road and flown there as well, as I've said. That's Highway 1. Again, if you follow that back, it'll take you over the hills and right back to the Gawler airport that we just left. But it'll take you a bit longer to get back there. There's also another big gliding airport or airfield about 45 degrees out through the window. Making sure that our height's correct, we want to be at 1,200 feet on our pattern. Remembering that Truro is 200 feet above sea level, so it's only another 40 feet higher. Okay, making our based call. Truro traffic, Cessna 172, turning left base for runway 12, Truro. Truro and many of the airports here all run on the same frequency, the same CTAF frequency, so you be very careful. You're making a landing at Truro and you don't mention Truro, and if they happen to hear you at Murray Bridge, then they'll be looking for an aircraft coming in on base leg and they won't be able to find you. Turning on the final. Truro traffic, Cessna 172, turning final for runway 12, Truro. Not the best base leg that I've flown. We're a bit diagonal, aren't we? But that's okay. Yeah, those damn trees. Yeah, they get the heart racing when you come in here for real. Okay, nearly there, levelling out. Our speed's good. Another set of flaps. Down, descent's fine, speed's good still. Descent rate's good. Keeping it straight. Yeah, I really enjoy doing the airports. It's been a lot of fun. Okay, just pulling the nose up to flare, and we look down the far end of the runway to get that sight picture between the line of the end of the runway and the cowling on the aircraft. Okay, braking heavily, get stopped. You tend to land a little long when you come in over those trees. Okay, good. Successful. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the flight with me. Thanks for staying the whole trip if you've been able to do that. Feel free to subscribe if you would like to see more flights. There's a whole lot of new things coming very soon. New flights, and considering some performance testing as well, just to let you see the differences between overclocking and non-overclocking on the current system that I have. And if you're running on a similar system, you can see the benefits, whether they be reasonable or minimal. That's something we'll be able to look at very soon. So we'll taxi in. Looking forward to a coffee and a cake. So heading towards the clubhouse. So now we've cleaned up everything, put the flaps away. All we need to do is to pull up, and we'll check the magnetos to make sure that they are both still fully operational. That doesn't require any RPM change. All we do is handbrake first, check everything else is fine. And we'll just turn the magneto off one side first, and then back to the other side. If the engine quits, then we know one of the magnetos is now not functioning, and we're going to get it fixed because it won't be going anywhere. Again, thank you for your time. Thanks for watching the video. Look forward to catching up with you again on the next video at Let's Fly VFR. See you again soon. Bye bye.